Please remember that all the opinions in the show are those of the host and should only be taken as food for thought. We're in no way telling you to do anything. Everything is kept anonymous for the safety of the listeners and no information is shared to anyone else. If you are easily offended by people's opinions or views, then thank you for making it this far, but this is not the podcast for you, so see you later. And please enjoy the rest of the show. So my last one I've got, and I had to do this one because I was like it, is the story of Burke and Hare.
Oh, yeah.
Which obviously I know Jamie knows.
Grave thieves.
Yeah, infamous grave robbers and murderers of the 19th century from Edinburgh, even though they weren't Scottish, they were Irish. So back then, schools like medical schools and that would give you money for bodies.
Yeah.
So the fresher the body, the more money you would get. So that would lead to people stealing bodies and things like that. And Burke and Hare were probably the most famous ones, who originated from Northern Ireland and moved to Scotland to work for the Union Canal. Burke had abandoned his wife and 2 children back in Ireland, and the pair had met and become close friends when Burke moved in with his mistress, Helen, to the lodgings of Tanner's Close in the Westport area of Edinburgh. Hare lived on the same street and was running a boarding house there with Margaret Laird, a widower whom he lived a man and wife, and who was also known as Margaret Hare, even though they were not legally married. So it says the pair's first foray into the world of medical science happened in December 1827, when one of Hare's tenants, an elderly army pensioner by the name of Old Donald, died of natural causes while still owing £4 in rent. So they've converted it. Obviously, it would have been cents, but so about £4. To cover the man's outstanding debt, the pair weighed his coffin down with tanning bark prior to his funeral and took his body to the medical school at Edinburgh University, where they were swiftly pointed in the direction of Professor Robert Knox, a popular anatomy lecturer. Knox paid the Doros £7.10 for Donald's body. So they got a profit out of that one.
His body wasn't even worth 2 months' rent. It
is. I wonder what ours would be worth now. Probably
Fuck
nothing.
all, mate.
Yeah.
Fuck all.
Mine's definitely worth anything. I'm fucking allergies and I can't eat.
Well,
nothing.
they might open you up, try to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll be worth a bit more then. So with the murders, encouraged by the ease in which they were making this money, the pair struck again in early 1828 when another tenant named Joseph became ill. Too impatient to see if Joseph would actually die from his inflictions, Burke and Hare took it upon themselves to help him along, plying him with whiskey and then suffocating him by covering his mouth and nose while he was forcibly restrained. This became their favoured method of execution, as they left the body unmarked and undamaged for the students who were later to dissect the cadavers. In the aftermath of the killing spree, the practice became known as burking.
Birkin.
Yeah, so if you ever suffocate anyone by holding their nose and mouth closed, it's called burking. Just to let you know. In the absence of any further ill tenants, the pair decided to entice victims to the lodging house, preying on Edinburgh's poorest communities who were less likely to be missed or recognised. In total, Burke and Hare had said to have murdered at least 16 people for between £7 to £10 apiece, although a real total is likely to be a lot higher. A local prostitute, Janet Brown, was lucky to escape with her life when she and a friend, Mary Patterson, were invited to stay by Burke. Having accused herself early in the evening, Janet returned to find her friend missing and was told Mary and Burke had stepped out. Having waited for her friend to return, Janet eventually decided to leave, having no idea that Mary were lying dead in the next room, ready to be taken to Knox. Burke and Hare soon became greedy and no one was safe. An elderly grandmother was killed with an overdose of painkillers, and Hare murdered her blind young grandson by breaking the boy's back across his knee. Yes, that's got that one in the movie with.
That definitely wasn't in the Nick Frost movie.
No. Even a relative of Helen's, Anne McDougall, was unhastily dispatched. Sorry. However, with greedy came carelessness. A number of Knox's students were said to have recognised Mary and two other prostitutes murdered by the pair. Elizabeth Holden and her daughter, who were unfortunately mistaken of calling at the lodging house to inquire for her missing mother. The gossip was extricated when the pair brought a handicapped child's entertainer by the name of James Wilson, who was well known in the city as Daft Jamie. Knox was said to strongly deny the identity of the body, but swiftly removed its head and deforming foot during the dissection.
There
So
you
he
go.
quickly fucking got rid of that.
They weren't
I can't get over
recognising with no head.
I can't get over the breaking the kid's back. That came out of nowhere. I honestly didn't fucking.
Yeah, they went 21 Savage. They literally went after everyone they possibly could find.
Yeah, I thought it was just on the old Birkin, but they've gone much further than that, haven't they? So discovery. So following the argument between Burke and Hare, which was caused by Burke's suspicion that Hare and Margaret were cutting himself and Helen out of the deals with Knox, Burke and Helen began to take in their own lodgers. So they sort of went their separate ways and were doing it to try and make money for each other. On Halloween 1828, Burke and Hare's last victim, Campbell Doherty, was invited to stay with Burke and Helen on the pretense that she was a distant relative of Burke's mother. Burke's other lodgers, a couple called James and Anne Gray, were invited to stay temporarily at Hare's boarding house that evening so the murder could take place. On their return to Burke's lodgings that following day, the Greys were told that Campbell had been asked to leave because she had been flirtatious with Burke. The couple became suspicious when they were not allowed to enter the spare room where they had left some of their belongings, and when left alone, they discovered her dead body hidden underneath the bed. The couple challenged Helen over their discovery, and she offered them a bribe of £10 a week if they would keep the discovery to themselves. They must have been earning a lot of money to be offering £10 a week back then.
Oh, yeah, mate. I'd be fucking straight on that. I'd be like, yeah, I'll take that bribe.
There's a lot of fucking pints and pies.
Yep.
The Greys refused and reported the murder to the police. However, in the meantime, word must have reached Burke and Hare, as by the time the police arrived at the premises, her body had been removed and taken to Knox. Burke and Helen and later Hare and Margaret were all arrested and gave conflicting accounts of what had taken place, with Burke and Hare each blaming each other. So this is the bit that I found interesting, because in the movie, when they get caught, they get hung, don't they? Both of them, Burke and Hare, get hung.
And they stand up for each other.
And they stand up for each other, yeah. So the trial and prosecution, right. So this is the bit that I was like, the police investigation soon led them to Knox, and James Gray identified the bodies found in the lecturers' hall. Having read about the murders in the local newspaper, Janet Brown later identified clothes found in Hare's lodgings house as belonging to the missing friend Mary Patterson. However, the police had little hard evidence to prove the crimes had been committed. The trial began at Christmas, and early the following day, Burke and Helen had both charged with Campbell's murder. Burke was also charged with the murder of Mary Patterson and James Wilson, while Helen's complicity in the murder was deemed not proven under Scottish law, and she was set free. Burke was sentenced to death by hanging. William Burke was hung at Law Market in front of a cheering crowd of 25,000 on 28th of January. That's a lot of fucking people. And fittingly, perhaps, after being put on public display, his body was donated for medical science. The number of anatomy students took ghoulish souvenirs of his skin, even using it to bind books and card holders. Burke's skeleton is still on display at the Surgeons' Hall in Edinburgh next to his death mask and the life mask of Helen's face. Despite the obvious involvement in the murders, his accomplice Hare was released in February 1829 and escaped across the border into England. No one knows definitely what happened to Hare, but it has been rumoured that he was thrown into a lime quarry by an angry mob and lived out his days as a blind beggar on the streets of London. Both Helen and Margaret also fled Edinburgh, with Helen said to have immigrated to Australia and Margaret gone back to Ireland.
Oh.
Despite mass public outrage, Knox was also cleared of his involvement in the murders, as Burke claimed he had no idea where the bodies were coming from. His reputation in ruins, Knox moved to London to try and salvage a career in medicine. So the
No
only
idea
person
where the bodies are coming from. They're turning up with a body every fucking second day.
Yeah, no. So it's crazy. So the only person that actually died or like got hung was Burke. Yeah. And Hare got away, and the women just fucking...
Hare must have been convincing, man. Or he had a bit of money on him where he could fucking bribe the cops.
Or he just fucking pinned it all on Burke, you know what I mean? It says the Burke and Hare murders followed swiftly afterwards by the 1831 murders committed by the London Burkes in Bethnal Green, led to the Anatomy Act in 1832, which allowed doctors, anatomy lecturers, and medical students greater access to cadavers and allowed for the legal donation of bodies to medical science, effectively calling an end to illegal body snatching.
Yeah, it needed to happen, didn't it? Imagine going to your fucking nan's grave and someone's fucking robbed it.
Or you're like watching the telly and your nan's fucking naked dead bodies on a slab.
Yeah. A fucking autopsy.
But it just shows you, like, that movie was really good. The one with Simon, is it Simon?
Simon Pegg, yeah, and
Simon Pegg.
Nick Frost.
No, it's not Nick Frost. It's the guy that played Gollum.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. What's his fucking name?
I just always put them together.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, in this one, it's not 2010 movie. Yeah, it's not him. It was such a good film, though.
It was light-hearted, wasn't it? So it was never going to be true to fact.
No. Andy's Circus.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simon Pegg and Andy
Caesar
Serkis
from fucking Planet of the Apes.
Yes, yeah. And King Kong. Loads of stuff he's fucking done. He's a quality actor. But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting because and in the film they make out that Burke and Hare decided to make funeral care. And that's how people started paying for funerals, because they were using the money to start up their own business.
Yeah,
where that wasn't true.
Fabrication.
Bullshit. Yeah.
Total fabrication. It goes to show what they do with films and stuff in Hollywood, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So I thought you were going to the toilet then. Yeah,
my back's killing me.
So hopefully people learn. So I'm assuming most people have heard of Burke and Hare, but I thought, as a taster for a true crime, I thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, you've got to be either living under a rock or living in Fife, I think, to not know who Burke and Hare is.
I might go watch that film now, though. That was fucking cool.